Good morning. Today we are starting our next unit in math, and we are working with inequalities. So today we are doing CO44. I can interpret and write inequalities. Tomorrow I will not be at school, but I already have our video lesson recorded, so it will be available for you tomorrow. So in class tomorrow, you're going to watch the video lesson like you would if you were at home. So you're going to go into my YouTube channel to watch the lesson, and then Mrs. Larson will be here and she will be able to help you if you have any questions, but you will do the next objective, CO45, in class tomorrow, even though I'm not here. You're just going to learn from my video instead of from me being up front, okay? If you have a hard time finding the videos, I know Madeline is a pro at finding the videos right now, so Madeline can help us find the video tomorrow if we need it, okay? All right, so CO44, I can interpret and write inequalities. We need to understand what an inequality is. An inequality compares two unequal values. So what we had just worked on in our last unit, we were talking about values of our variable, what they equal. You would see something like A equals 1/3 or B equals 2. And you put that variable, that value in for your variable. Those are equals. Now we're doing inequalities. They do not equal each other. So, Layla, I'm going to have you go sit back by Marina. So we are working something different now. So we are not doing equals, we're doing inequalities. And we can see that there are 4 symbols for our inequalities. Less than, greater than, less than, equal to, greater than, or equal to. So just like we did when we did the verbal phrases with adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing, we're going to fill in different words for each of these symbols. So we know when we're reading the verbal phrase which symbol it means. So let's look at our first column. What does that symbol mean, Zelda?
Greater than, less than?
Less than. Because remember, this is less than this because it gobbles up the bigger side. So our first number is going to be less than because that's the smaller end of the arrow. Madison?
Wait, so is it greater than? Is it like the open part?
The open side goes to the bigger number.
Yeah.
So we always read from left to right. So if it's pointing to that first one, it means it's the smaller number, so it's less than.
I was always taught that the cookie monster would.
Yeah. So I always did the alligator. The alligator wants to gobble the bigger number. But we read from left to right. We read from left to right in reading, and we go from left to right with math. So we know that if it's the smaller point, we know that first side is less than. Another word we can see for less than is fewer and lower. So you need to be filling in your table, and we saw in our last test that it really helped to have our words filled in on our table. So when it came time for the test, we knew what those verbal phrases mean. So let's look at our next symbol. What does our next symbol mean? Layla? Greater than. Use a different color. If less than is fewer, greater than is more. So if less than is lower, greater than is Callie? Higher. Let's look at our next symbol. What does our next symbol stand for? Okay, so we're done being alligators. Very distracting to me. So yes, less than or equal to. When it has that line underneath it, it means it could be equal to that or less than it. So on the number line, if it's less than or equal to a 2, that means it could be 2 or anything smaller than it. Other words for less than or equal to could be maximum. The maximum number is 2. Could be anything smaller, but it can't go above 2. That's the maximum. Another word or words would be at most. I can spend at most $10 because that's all I have in my pocket. So I can spend at most 10. So I can spend less than 10. Can't spend $12 because I don't have $12 in my pocket. So at most I could spend is 10. I could also say no more than. I can spend no more than $10 because that's all I have. Okay. So all of those mean it can be equal to or less than our number. So I always think of it in terms of money because I can't spend more money than what I have, right? I only have what's in my pocket. So I can spend that much or less than it. And our last one, what do we call that symbol? Melanie? Greater than or equal to. Because it again has that little equal sign under it. So greater than or equal to. If the less than or equal to is the maximum, what would we say for greater than or equal to? Marina? Minimum. The minimum amount would be 50. Okay, so it could be 50 or higher. That's our minimum. It could be more than that, but it has to be 50. If less than or equal to is at most, well, what would greater than or equal to be? At least. We have to have at least 50. I could have more than that. Can't have less than it. Has to be at least 50 or more. So, if less than or equal to is no more than, what would we say for greater than or equal to? Amanda? I wouldn't say more than, I would say no less than. Because if I say more than, it's not factoring in that equal to. So we had the more with the greater than, but we want to make sure that there's that difference between greater than and greater than or equal to. Okay, so if it's no less than, it means we can't have a smaller number, but we can have that or more. So let's see how that factors into what we're working on today. We're going to write each inequality statement as a verbal phrase 2 ways, because we have a list for each symbol. So we're going to write it 2 different ways that means the same thing, using those terms from our box. So if we look at our first one, n is greater than 5, how would I write that? What words would I write? What's one way, Dom? I have to write it all out. So I have to say n is greater than 5. Okay, so we're gonna write our words out. What's another way I could say that? Madeline?
5 is less than 10.
I want us to use your way, it works, but we want to start with the end side. I don't want to flip it around. So look at the greater than column, and we're going to use words from there. So you're not wrong in saying 5 is less than n, but that's flipping, and I don't want to flip it. So what can I say about n if I'm going to start with n? Using one of those words from the column.
N is more than 5.
N is more than 5. We also could have used higher. N is higher than 5. Marina.
Aren't you supposed to use a number because that's what it says below?
You are absolutely correct. Thank you, Marina. I remember forgetting that a couple of times when we were working on our last unit. So when we're doing those verbal phrases, we need to write it out. So we should say a number and a number. So you are absolutely right. We should say a number when we're using verbal phrases. So then if we look down below, it says write each verbal phrase as an inequality statement. There's only one way to write an inequality statement. So we only have to write one time. So a number is less than 18. How would that look, Melanie?
18 is the less than symbol and then N.
So you said 18 less than n. So let's look up here. Melanie, look up here. So a number is less than 18. So think about a number that's less than 18. So let's say 10. 10 is less than 18. Could I put that in here and say 18 is less than 10? Uh-oh. Yep, you have to flip it around. So if our verbal phrase starts with a number, what should our inequality start with? Sorry. N. Then we do the less than symbol. Then we bring down the 18. So we're doing it in order. If the verbal phrase starts with a number, your inequality starts with N. You look at what symbol it is, you bring that down, and then you have what's at the end. So in this one, it's 18. So we bring down the 18. Keep it in order. Let's do the next one. A number is greater than 20. What would that inequality look like? Ava, give it a shot.
Oh, well, I had a question.
Yeah.
So, like, if you do, like, for, like, the N 18, would it be wrong if you do 18 and then, like, the thing is you do 18? Would that be wrong? Or
It would be wrong. Why? Because it has the greater than symbol. It means the same thing, but we're not putting this specific statement into our inequality. We're doing a different verbal phrase. That would be 18 is greater than n. We can't flip it. We have to put exactly what the verbal phrase is telling us. So if it's telling us to use the less than symbol, we have to use the less than symbol. Okay? That was a good question. Can you try to put this one into an inequality?
With a number is greater than 20.
Yeah.
So there's like a number and then greater.
So what do I put for a number?
N.
N.
And then you do the and then
The greater than symbol.
Greater than symbol, you do the N and you put 20.
Yep. So even though 18 is greater than n, We can't flip it and write that inequality. We're going to keep it. Our inequality should specifically show what that verbal phrase is saying. So if it starts with a number, you start with n. If it starts with 20, you would start with 20. So you start the same way the verbal phrase starts when you're doing that inequality. Same thing when we're writing our verbal phrase out. If it starts with an n, you start with a number. You have to follow the same way that they have it set up. You have to follow that. You're going to finish this first page. Let's take a look at what our second page is. It says, write each its situation as an inequality statement. So you're going to have to look for those key words, look back at the table. What inequality is it? Is it greater than, less than, equal, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to? You have to look for our key words. So our first one says the most you can spend at Target is $20. Show the amounts of money you can spend. What are our key words in that example? Marina?
The most.
Yeah, the most you can spend at Target is $20. What do you think our inequality statement's going to look like? Melanie? So most is less than or equal to. So now I have to think what goes on the front side, what goes on the back side of that less than or equal to. Go ahead, Melanie. So the most you can spend at Target is $20. So Melanie's thinking, oh, we see 20 first in our sentence. So should we put 20 first? Let's see if that makes sense. So then I have my variable. $20 is less than or equal to our variable. If I only have a $20 bill in my pocket, I can't spend more than $20, right? I can spend $20 or less. I can get change from my 20. Is that what this inequality is telling us? $20 is less than or equal to what I can spend. It's not. Okay, I can't spend more than $20. So $20 is the most I can spend. So I can spend less than $20, or I can actually spend all $20. But I can't spend any more than that. So we use our terms from the page before to help us know what the symbol is. And then we have to think through. So this is going to take some thought. Where do we put the n? Where do we put our number? Does it make sense? So you have to look at it logically. Let's do one more together. You need more than 12 goals to break the record. Show the number of goals you could score to break the record. So, which symbol am I going to be using, Callie? Greater than, because I need more than. So where do I want to put my variable and where do I want to put my number? Layla? Put the 12 in front and then my variable. So what that tells me is 12 is greater than the number I need, the number of goals I need to break the record. So I need a number smaller than 12 to break the record. So if it said you need more than 12 goals to break the record, I need my number of goals to be more than 12. So the number of goals is going to be greater than 12. So we have to go back and think. I'm going to write down what I think the answer is, and I'm going to go back and say, does it actually make sense with what it's saying? So originally, Leah was thinking 12, and then the variable, that didn't make sense. We didn't want our variable to be smaller than 12. We wanted it to be bigger than 12. One last one we're going to do together, and then you're going to work on your own. You can eat a maximum of 2,500 calories per day. Show the amounts of calories you can eat in a day. So if it's a maximum, what symbol is that? Madison. Less than or equal to. So really think through where we're going to put our variable and where we're going to put our number. You can eat a maximum of 2,500 calories per day. You can't eat more than that. Not healthy. You have to cap it at 2,500 calories. So where do I want to put that 2,500 calories? Do I want that to be less than the calories that I'm eating? Or do I want my calories to be less than 2,500? Zelda?
You want your calories to be less than 2,500?
Yeah, so I want my 2,500 over here because that's what we can be equal to or less than. So my number has to be less than or equal to 2,500. Does that make sense? Okay. So you're going to finish that. So flip back to that front side. You're going to finish that first page. Make sure you have that all done. And then you're going to make sure that you are writing your inequalities correctly. If you finish, because we've got quite a bit of work time, come have me check it. Because there were a lot of us that were flipping it. I want you to check, does it logically make sense? And then come have me check it. Did I do it correctly? Then you're working on your math packet. That video is online on my YouTube channel. Work on that math packet. If you've turned your math packet in for me to check, you can work on something quietly at your desk. If you have Math Masters, you can work on that. If you have something to do for science or for ELA, you can silently work on that. If you want to work on your History Day project or your poster, or your recruiter poster, you can work on that. But it's got to be quiet. Okay? Has to be quiet. Clear? Yes. Yep, that conference stuff that Mrs. Gregory did in science, you can work on that. Madison. We're not going to pull the board stuff out because we don't have that much time. If you are watching this at home, I hope you are well. I hope to see you soon. Have a wonderful day.